So Manu, in your talk, you emphasized the role of mentorship in being able to sort of move the science forward. Can you sort of articulate more on that realm? In one perspective, I was thinking the mentorship could be really, really important for really allowing your students to know what's important for everything that they're doing. But I'm sure you have a whole bunch of other ideas in terms of what mentorship is all about.
Yeah, I think there are different layers. What I meant in that as a first layer is the societal context itself. You know, there's 2 billion kids on this planet. Majority of the kids, if you ask them, it's almost as if they have to wait for a permission, even to be granted to explore and be curious, like the kind of layers that we have built around the educational system. So one layer of mentorship for me, which is the baseline, is we have to get out of their way. That's the first layer of mentorship, is to just allow them to be who they are. Individual scientists, allowing them to be who they are, removing some of these barriers and structures and many of the, frankly, evaluations that happen. So it's the bare minimum that we can do is get out of the way. And that's been, that's layer one. Layer two around that is then you realize that just people have such creative voices. Can we support those voices? Can we really turn that into a conversation? And, you know, I think this is where, for me, the best mentorship style is a conversation or just the act of doing something together rather than telling somebody, oh, this is what you should do. We just go out and do it. And in that process, I learn something from everyone that I work with and they learn something back, and hopefully we rub each other in the right ways that it, so it's, you know, I think, and then the third layer of mentorship is really about, can we create a kind of space where a style of asking questions or a way of approaching a problem is allowed as a whole, which is much more of like in the scientific societies, in sometimes certain sets of fields have grown because there were people that advocated for it, and kind of then you're championing an approach which, you know, then you are almost mentoring people that you've never even met, because by just being us, and, you know, I think it's really remarkable to see sometimes, and Woods Hole is a great example, and I hear a lot of your stories at Woods Hole. Just JLS being JLS has been, you might not even know those stories, but that is a form of mentorship, which is kind of the third layer, by just being honest with ourselves, by people around them, and because, I mean, we so lack that sometimes. I kind of feel everybody feels there is some motif you have to fit in, which is not true. So, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of, it's many layers. But to me, the best one is, I love, my test for new students is I take them out to the field. Deepak, I almost lost in the swamp one time when we found Lackery. Didn't lose him, but we lost his shoes because we were in this quicksand, and it was just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But it's, you know, there's something that happens in the act of doing something, which is very different from sitting in an office and having a conversation about mentorship. So I don't know, it's kind of, I like, for most of the people, either it's on a microscope or on a boat. It's my way of, and when it clicks, I think then it kind of, then there's a lot more there. You can then kind of tease that out. And but yeah, something about being able to build true relationships is
really key.
It's really important. Yeah, I mean, the the kind of culture that you guys have created at Woods Hole has lasted, and that's also a very special kind of mentorship.
Yeah, I think one of the features of mentorships that's not so appreciated is young people who are interacting with a mentor or watching the way that the mentor is interacting with the world. And they're absorbing a lot of ways that the mentor is thinking about the world. And I think that's one of the things that is really great about your talk today, was you were exuding an incredible mentorship sort of role to everybody in that audience by telling them, really questioning them in terms of, you know, what's our future going to be like? You know, also, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people in the world that don't know anything about science, or, you know, are shocked when they see small things that are naked to the, you know, to the eye. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's
there's a lot of ways to mentor than sort of the official ways that we're told to mentor. I think is the point. And
filling out forms is not my way of mentorship.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of become a little bit of a trend now, and it's problematic. Yeah.
So Manu, what do you feel like when you see something really new, or when you interpret something that you realize is not been thought about before? What's your feeling? You know, what's your reaction?
There are two parts to it. One is the first one that you said about just seeing something new. That I feel very quickly we have a capacity to identify.
Yeah.
Because you look in the back of your head, it's like nothing like this you've ever seen before. So in some sense, the act of observing day in and day out, every day, prepares you for that moment. And if you're not prepared, every new observation will just pass by. And that happens all the time. Like, I do actually see something and later on realize, oh, wait a second, this adds up. In your archive. Sometimes it's very obvious that because you've been honing a skill that you say, you know, I think there is something here as a gut feeling. I mean, a lot of times it's, for me, this happens on boats all the time. Often it is in a moment where we haven't slept that much, you're exhausted, you're tired. Sometimes it happens in a conversation where, you know, we're actually making that observation collectively. But I think the click of understanding something new has been a lot more subtle for me. It's watching the same thing again and again and again and again, and then something clicks. So that feeling is it's a little different from seeing something for the first time. Because the click is
understanding.
And that's to me it's much more emotional, actually, I would say.
I guess in my with us, or with my world, you see weird stuff, new stuff all the time, and it's like, that's sort of interesting. But then it's when you try to connect it to other things and you start getting an understanding, that's what's totally exciting. When you start realizing, you know, this could be related to this or that. And in my presentation, it was seeing that lysosome next to the site where these mRNAs were in the process of translating. And the first thing is, well, is this real? You know, you see something unusual and you go, is this real? And so you look for it over and over again. Then you say, okay, it's got to be real. What is this for? And then you start getting sort of an understanding, and it's very exciting to just follow up. What about this? What about that? And you sort of build out a story that keeps you excited for a long period.
Time,
So it's not just something strange that you're looking at. It's it's realizing that that thing that's strange, you can see it repeatedly, and it connects to something really significant. So in your talk, when you showed all of those sea stars connected to each other over a mile on the seafloor, and they were all communicating, I mean, they know what they're doing.
They're holding hands for sure, that we can
It was
say.
so unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I love what you said about the understanding part, and kind of the emotional part of it is, it's almost like bricklaying, because all of those little aha moments are laying the bricks, but there is a moment you realize that you have a foundation. You haven't built the whole house, but you know you have a foundation, and that's very exciting.
No, exactly.
Because it looks new, it's all the bricks are necessary. Any one brick that was not there could totally collapse the thing, but you also feel now that you've looked at it from so many ways. And the kind of the slowness of it is very interesting. It's very rare. I don't know of any other thing that we do, because it builds slowly. So this, I mean, parochially, there's this aha moment.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of slow aha, stretched over weeks sometimes.
No, exactly.
It's not it's kind of strange, and I don't know, it often feels like it lasts for a while, until then you feel like, oh, of course, this had to be that way.
No,
like,
exactly.
How silly of me to not.
Exactly.
So it's very dynamic.
Another feature of this that I think is sort of interesting, it may not be the case so much in your work, but in my work, there's a lot of cell biology that has been known, 60 years or more. And so when we see something unusual, the first thing is, well, have other people seen this? And if they have, what do they make of it? And then you realize, well, the thing that's, you start realizing, well, they couldn't have seen this before because they didn't have these techniques. And so you go back in the literature and you realize, well, people really haven't thought about this relationship at all. And then you start realizing, okay, this is a very different way of thinking about the system. It's because you have a different way to view this system. And then you sort of have a responsibility to try to further understand the relationships that you're seeing. That's sort of, it's exciting. There's aha, then there's excitement, and then you feel sort of a responsibility to share this information with people around you.
Yeah, no, I love the connected part of it. What you're saying is, some bricks were already lying in the garden, but nobody saw the foundation too.
But I can tell you that sometimes people, when you see something really new that you think is really exciting, some people just, you present it at a meeting and people go, what does that mean? You have to be really, it's like, okay, well then I didn't communicate it very well. I didn't demonstrate the significance, or maybe it's just in my head, the significance. But I think this all underscores what science is. It's a community process of trying to clarify the world, trying to create language to talk about the world, and we have to agree on that language. So there's a I think not everybody understands that as a scientist. You sort of think, oh, I've discovered something, and there's no responsibility for me to sort of communicate that. People should just figure it out themselves, sort of thing. I'll just throw the data in a publication, but it will not change the way that we think as scientists unless it's communicated in a way that links to other things to show a deeper significance.
No, I think the social side of it is so fascinating, because even when we work alone, we're not working alone.
I know.
And it's that fabric is always there. You're aware, and in some sense, when you do wanna, when you have something really new, you also have to have the audacity to really spend the time and effort to bring everybody along as well. I think otherwise known this, that things will sit for 50, 60 years until it gets discovered again, and say, why is it that such an incredible piece of information was this? I mean, in physics, it happens all the time. People will rediscover something 60 years later, and like, it's how shocking, we could have done all of this long time ago. But it's partly it's the communication. Because it's buried in annotation that only a few people can read, and in a math that only 10 people understand. And we miss that opportunity, and I think, we have to do better for sure in that. In your talk, JLS, one of the things that there was a moment in the talk that I was thinking is like, oh, you know, the nanoscopic world, we have so little intuition on, and then you just see it laid out, and of course, incredible amount of tools that are built. And there was something very special about those movies in general, and I think this is true for your work in many ways. It's often made me feel helping build an intuition around the small world. So I'm curious sort of how you think about this from a, you know, because you really push the boundaries of atomic scale imaging, or at least atomic scale understanding by nanoscale imaging, and the role of communicating that, because it's a pretty strange world down there, and I wonder what are the challenges that you find in
publishing?
Both publishing it, but also communicating the kind of dynamics and the kind of non-intuitive nature of the small world.
Well, first is just the publication of the work itself, which is a process, and can take many, many months to get through, you know, reviewers, and, you know, I think this is important for the falsifiability in science. I mean, scientists are hoping to unveil reality of some sort, and in order for us to not create a fantasy reality, we need to have checks and balances, and that's what publication is all about. And you know, we have a new way of publishing, which is preprints, which I think is really important for being able to get out the science ahead of the publication itself. But I firmly believe that we totally need that publication process with reviewers to ensure that our science is as good as it can be. Because it's very easy to create false representations about the world. And as scientists, we create our own reality based on our understanding, you know, built on, you know, strong models, you know, relativity theory, you know, quantum mechanics, evolution, Darwinian evolution. Those are you know, foundations that we build, you know, on our understanding. But if we didn't have that infrastructure, we could easily go off into bizarre directions in terms of the way that we're thinking about the world. And so the publication process is really important for that. Anyway, so that's the way I think about it. I don't know about the way that you think, but there are some people who think, oh, well, you know, you can let's just skip the publication and go right to just dumping the data into a, you know, some large database. And with more data, you're going to have more knowledge, and I don't think that's correct.
That's very well said. More data is not more knowledge.
More data is not more knowledge. It's how that data is interpreted, and the interpretation of that data is very much a precious thing that, as scientists, we need to think hard about, because it has real world consequences for how we're going to deal with climate change, what we're doing under the oceans, how we're interpreting protein translation.
No, I mean, I think sharing that process with the general public is also critical, as we've seen in the past, because published papers have been utilized to build false narratives and used in many ways. So I think, all three layers of, in my world, we try to enable people to experience science and the power of observation. And that has value, and we actually publish that on the community websites. Every observation gets a DOI number, and that's layered. It's not Wikipedia, it's not even about being right. At that layer, it's about a lab notebook. And just opening that up. Then kind of there's a second layer to it. When we curate, we really understand, and then sets of preprints. And even at that point, it's your interpretation of everything that's unfolded. And a third layer to it where you can bring a community along, whichever way and form. And with the hope of improving the work itself, I think there is a sense of thinking about, there's a sense of service in it. But what's missed in all of this is how this process works and the iterative nature of it, which is a little bit what you were also talking about, that at the end of the day, whether we are all working together, whether we like it or not. The fold of science moves that way. I think somehow people having a taste of that process is so critical in what's happening right now, because currently knowledge is misrepresented, even though it was just, you flip a word, you cut a sentence, you kind of present a statistics in some wrong way, and people exploit and utilize that as a talking point to then build whatever people want to build. So I feel one missing piece of the puzzle is really having, everybody's life depends on science. So why is it from the early age we're not sharing this process of how knowledge is built?
Through science.
Through science and through an experience of science. What I have found very difficult, just what I find very frustrating, is we've created a culture where books are thrown at kids, and then you feel like if you can qualify all of this set of knowledge, then you're allowed to do science. And if you flip that around, you let them be smitten by curiosity and the science, and they will jump all the hoops to gain that knowledge and that foundation itself. So there's a little bit of a taste, like the joy that we were talking about before. Could we do that early? And in that process, it would also open up the process of science to a broader group of people. Because there is a danger in if just us as scientists agree with each other and that's it. And I worry about that. And I don't think we have as yet built the kind of true networks. And of course, we can all spend time in public spaces. We are all citizens, after all. We're human. But there is a limit to that also, because then people have to take my word for it. And so kind of the thing that I have invested a lot of time in this entire frame is, could I really give people the joy and the process? And it's been fascinating. In the last 10 years, what's happened is now the early full scopers in our community are graduate students and are pursuing science as a side hobby. Like I just learned yesterday in a meeting, somebody is visiting from Kerala, and she told me about 2 couples in Kerala who are retired, who now take full scopes in the community, observing things in the Western Ghats, almost kind of a second life in science and there is something about this, that if science becomes, that it happens on the dinner table, and those sets of discussions are equally important, and I don't think we're doing enough in that space. We're trying to organize our kind of house and in the scientific community, and it's been wonderful to see the positive nature of publications truly changed. I still feel a huge gap, and frankly, that is something we have to accelerate, because the sets of forces in the world right now are truly exploiting this weak link between, these are experts, so by being an expert, you're already relegated.
You're questioned.
So I still see we have a long way to go. I like where we are headed, but I don't think we're doing enough on the experience of science as a process, and especially with students and young kids who will potentially not have any scientific careers later. That's perfectly okay. Right? It's not just for creating more scientists. It's not about pipeline. It's just about the same logical thinking that you described of building knowledge that way. If that was the core, just like literacy, if scientific process was a core skill that we taught.
I also think that science can help people better appreciate that the world that we live in is understandable beyond just being controlled by, larger powers. And it allows you to break, it seems, so much of the world just seems miraculous. And by having people look under these foldscopes or, just pay attention to the broader world, the biological world, and realize that there is a way that you can make some sense of this. It is beautiful, and there are mysteries, huge mysteries, but
you
we're
are at the
making
first
progress
step.
towards understanding those mysteries. And it's not like there's a leap that suddenly, something we can't possibly unravel. I mean, there are some big questions like the origin of life, but I think that's one of the areas that I think is so exciting.
There might also be so many steps along the way. The bricks are all there too. I mean, I love what you said, because the word that I often think about is agency. Giving people agency to understand the world. Not promising them that, you enter the fold of science and you'll know everything.
Right, exactly.
No, but just the agency that you can point the arrow in the right direction.
Right.
There are steps. You take the first step and you don't see the rest of it, and that's okay. But the process is about feeling that agency. And I think a lot of people have been stripped away from that agency. So,
and this is really important from the perspective of the fact that our planet is changing. There's more people, there's energy that's being sort of moved around in ways that creates a global conflict at some level. And we have agency as a species to do something about it. It's not just, we'll just see what's going to happen. Next year it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. We have agency to try to understand and reverse or control it in some way. That I think that's what science brings to the table.
And unfortunately, it's now the nature has forced our hand. It's not a question of whether we will or not. We must, otherwise.
Right, or else we're going to be living in air-conditioned apartments, and then ultimately get no food, because all of our food
and
is going to be
unfortunately,
destroyed.
it's also, I mean, what worries me the most in kind of how the planet is changing is that its burden will be borne by people that have very little. It's just the reality of the world that the way I see the highest density populations are at locations where there is the highest predictable temperatures that rise. So, I think, this is almost an existential crisis of it's incredible to be alive at this time. It also feels a sense of responsibility, and as scientists, because at the end of the day, it's things must move fast enough for any of the rest to matter.
Right, and at least I feel that as an individual scientist, I can't do much other than educate other people to listen and to be brought into.
I think you do a lot. You inspire, and that's the most important, because once you inspire, then so many things happen.
Yeah.
And kind of, I think, just anchoring in fundamental science is so critical to be able to come out of what we're seeing. You know, we will not be able to mitigate any of this unless, I mean, the living world controls the planet in so many ways. And
well, I think the key thing right now, sort of at the political level, is whether science is embraced as a way of understanding the world or not. And we are at an existential point in many places where there is a threat to that. That basically scientists are seen as an elite group that, you know, are fashioning their own view of the way that the world is organized, and there's no control valve on that process. And that, you know, I think that's, you know, inevitable. You know, any type of organization will, the people who are at the leading edge of that organization will come off as elitist, but I think as scientists we need to really demonstrate that we follow a process, and it's a process that involves falsification. It's a process that has many controls that keep it focused on what we think is the closest that we can get to reality, or understanding of reality, from a framework that goes back hundreds of years. So yeah, I'm pretty passionate about science and, you know, what it can, you know, how it can help people. I mean, it's not the answer to everything. We have, you know, scientists don't talk about religion. You know, they're not spiritual in many respects, and there's a huge part of the way we function as human beings as spiritual beings. You know, we appreciate beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I think on that note, just the deep appreciation of beauty is a very spiritual thing, and we all do that. It's just, I mean, everybody has their own language. I kind of think of this as, even in the context of religion, all of us have, I think, frankly, it so inspires, it keeps us human in so many ways. I mean, going back to kind of the current times, I think one thread that I want to pick on is, there's almost a target that's been painted on the back of scientists currently by forces that gain by doing that. It's the reality, it's the true, just if you look at all of these sets of processes, and you know, this representation has been fabricated in many ways, and to a certain extent, grassroots approaches, us just connecting with people, I feel does have a strong role to play, because all of the top-down forces will always exist. They will always do.
No, exactly.
People figure out a way to manipulate data. They figure out ways to manipulate, and you know, when it's against their worldviews, and there is lots of people who gain from it. But I think I often feel fighting this with wonder and curiosity and a much more of a grassroots connection is the way to go. It feels slow, it feels, but it's much more, the human connection is so deep. And many a times it's a function of time. Because I think it is true that as scientists pursuing goals, it's time is limited, and for some things that we're obsessed about, time is truly limited. You know, you're working on a disease, you're working on a problem, or you're just working on trying to understand a mystery, and it's unfolding in ways and forms. But how do we carve out in our structure this, the other side of this, which is just engaging with people on a grassroots level and sharing this process with almost everyone, no bars. No matter what your opinion is, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your economical circumstances is. And I think, somehow I feel we haven't carved out that structure as yet in our process.